يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما إن الأصدق الحديث كتاب الله عز وجل وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. We begin in the blessed name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His help and His forgiveness. Whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deems astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a slave and final messenger sent to mankind. The best speech is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His kitab, the noble Quran. The best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his authentic sunnah. The world's affairs in the religion are the newly invented matters, and every newly invented matter is a religious innovation, and every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance takes a door to the hellfire. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I feel like the nervous student who has to give an exam because there are two eminent imams who are in the gathering. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the steadfastness. Ameen. Today's talk is more of a reminder. You know, the human habit is when you learn something and you keep doing it consistently, you know, it becomes second nature. You know, it becomes second nature. What I mean by that is you start doing it in autopilot mode. Many a times you're driving the car and then suddenly you're in the car park of your house and you don't even remember how do you actually get there. You know, the body naturally tells you to do stuff. With the prayer, when we approach our prayer, we do it so consistently, even though we know the etiquettes around it, the sunnah around it, the farq around it, we sometimes tend to just do it in autopilot mode and we forget it. Today's talk, inshallah wa ta'ala, is focused on the etiquettes of the Friday prayer. Approaching the khutbah, approaching the masjid, what you do before you come to the masjid, things you do after entering the masjid, and things you do before the day completes. You know, when Sheikh Ahmad gives the talk, you know, he will always, in the second part of the khutbah, he will remind all of us, there's a special part in the day, right? And that's part of the etiquette. So inshallah wa ta'ala, I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes with you, reminding myself and everyone, inshallah wa ta'ala, around the etiquette. Now, firstly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the creations and the legislation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, the creations, and the legislation to govern these creations as well. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the 12 months, He chose Ramadan as the special month in those 12 months. And in that particular month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose special nights. And then one of them being a night which is more powerful than 1,000 plus months. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose special days. And then the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. There is preference that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His selection that amongst the creation itself. For the Jews, they chose their day as the Saturday. For the Christians, they chose their day as the special day as Sunday for worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But with us, this ummah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us that Allah chose the day of Jummah as the day prescribed for us. So as we have the 5 daily prayers, there's an obligation on all of us to attend in gathering on the day of Jummah. Jummah itself comes with the word gathering. You bring everyone together. And we enter the masjid and there are certain obligations upon all of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawmil jum'ati fathaw ila dhikrillahi wa dharul bay' dhalikum khairul lakum in kuntum ta'lamun. There is goodness in it if you understand. And Allah is telling us, explicitly, oh, who you believe, when the day of Friday comes in, approach your prayers. Forget your living, forget your marketplaces, forget your business. Get to the masjid. There's recommendation and there's command. Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anh says in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, we pay more attention to it because there's a legislation that is being enforced here. Something is made obligatory or something is made negated for the Muslimin. So there's special attention. Now, let's talk about some of the etiquettes of coming into the masjid. The first etiquette, which we unfortunately have become, all of us are guilty of this, is we delay coming to the Jummah prayer. The first thing we ask is, this happened with me personally. I went overseas on holidays to India, and I asked, a cousin of mine, when is the Jummah prayer? He said 1:10, just like us. So in my head, I'm thinking 1:10 is probably the start of the khutbah. 1:10 was actually the Iqamah. Right? So we went there, and the prayer people were already standing. I got so frustrated after this, and I asked him, I asked you, when does the prayer start? And in his head, he was thinking the prayer itself is the actual prayer. But Jum'ah, there's a precedence that happens before the prayer itself. There's the khutbah that happens as an important activity. So there is importance on all of us. We have to signify this. We have to plan our day more betterly as much as possible to come early to the masjid. Why? Because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he mentioned ﷺ, hadith narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, hadith muttafaqun alayh in both Bukhari and Muslim, that on the day of Jum'ah, the angels stand at the entrance of the masjid in which the Jum'ah Salah is offered. And these angels, their job is to write down the name of every person who enters the masjid first, and thereafter the one who follows after that, and they continue doing this. The person who entered first will receive the reward of sacrificing a camel in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who comes after that will receive a reward of sacrificing a cow. The one who comes after that will receive a reward of a sheep. The one who comes after that will receive a reward of a chicken, and so on. So the reward keeps coming down as you start delaying it. When the imam stands on the mimbar and starts the khutbah, the khatib stands on the mimbar and starts the khutbah, the angels close their book and they join the gathering. So what does it hadith actually signify here? If you attend the gathering after the khutbah has commenced, you are not in the enrollment list. You did not make your name to the register that the angels are keeping. You didn't make it to the book. So there's high importance for all of us to plan our day as much as possible. But in the Sydney context, I have to add this extra layers on it. Doesn't mean you park incorrectly. Doesn't mean you obstruct someone's driveway. You don't break any rules. Why? Because in Islam, we have there's daraja, there's levels. Okay, Islam comes to protect life. That's the one ultimate rule that Islam, from usul al-fiqh, that's the top rule. Comes to protect life. Okay, if you block someone's driveway and they have an emergency, and that person goes into a complication situation because of you, or perhaps worse, dies, you have his blood on your hand. You missing the prayer because you planned your day poorly and you came late to the masjid and you put someone else's life in threat. That's not acceptable. So let's be good Muslims, inshallah ta'ala. And we know in Sydney, many masajids and musallas have been closed because of this very fact, the parking issue. So let's take that seriously, inshallah ta'ala. So first, this hadith should encourage us to come to the masjid as early as possible, as much as in a regular fashion as much as possible, and try to make to the front rows. This is another habit that people have. Of course, you are a senior person, you have an illness, like the ones, mashallah, sitting in the back, may Allah grant them protection, ameen. They come to the masjid early, but unfortunately because of their physical abilities, they sit at the back. But I see, mashallah, young men, in their full vigor, coming into the masjid and sitting in the last rows. Why? I mean, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you understand the reward of sitting in the front rows, you will draw lots. You'll do qur'ah. You will draw lots between each other on competing who would sit in the front. That's the reward that you get of coming in early and sitting in the front rows of the masjid. So do not abandon the front rows. This is not the classroom, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is easy with all of us. Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala says, why do the Muslims do not feel ashamed that the Jews and Christians prioritize going early to the days of worship on Saturdays and Sundays while we lag behind? And another scholar, Abu Talib al-Makki, he says the first innovation or bid'ah that took place in Islam was that we started not going early to the masjid on Fridays. This is his opinion. So inshallah ta'ala, let's not make that mistake. Number two is cleaning up. Cleaning up here referring to ghusl, cleaning up to here referring to the miswak, cleaning up to performing the ablution in the best of manners, slowly and steadily, not being excessive with the use of water, etc. The Prophet ﷺ said, any of you attending the Friday prayer should take the bath. the Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu said, I testify that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, taking of bath on Jum'ah is compulsory for every male Muslim who has attained the age of puberty, and the cleaning of his feet with siwak and perfuming himself if it is available to him. I think inshallah ta'ala all of us in Sydney can do all of this easily. I mean it is part of our day. When does the day actually begin? I mean that's the $1 million question, right? In the Islamic calendar day, the night comes before the day, right? So the night starts from Maghrib after the Maghrib finishes on Thursday, and then going up all the way to the Maghrib of the Friday itself. So here the day is mentioned. So some scholars said it has to be the day, but others said the day of Jum'ah, because Jum'ah in extension is the whole day. So as long as you do it between the Maghrib of the Thursday to the day itself, you are covered inshallah. So you know where you are, you know how you mobilize whatever works for you according to if you're doing a shift work, you have to start your day at 4 a.m. in the morning. Obviously I'm not going to ask you to wake up at 2 a.m. and make ghusl. Be sensible, don't make yourself sick. Perhaps take the shower before you go to sleep the previous night, and then use the day inshallah ta'ala. Number 3 is arriving on time, and which we discussed, mentioned importantly. Here I wanted to separate coming early and arriving time as 2 different points, is because arriving on time is before the khutbah begins. Many people have this tendency to push it to the last minute, and this masjid especially is amazing at that. You should come to Fajr here, Allahu Akbar, right? Until the iqamah is given, there will be 3 people. Suddenly the iqamah is finished, there are 20 people, mashallah. I think it's ultimate, the last minute. We all are waiting somewhere in the car park just to get in somewhere. So let's not do that. There's so much hasanat of entering the masjid early. When you sit here and you recite the Quran and you hear the adhan, the bricks that are there around you testify you on the day of judgment. I mean, don't you want that? You want every witness for you and helping you on the day of judgment. So let's maximize that inshallah ta'ala. The 4th thing is going to prayer calmly, right? Because we plan poorly and we rush towards the end, we try to run towards the masjid, right? We rush in, we do a wudu, which is like kung fu. You just throwing your arms left, right and center at the water, probably not entering the water in the right space. That's what my son used to do when he was 4 years younger. Mashallah, now he's better, alhamdulillah. Things have changed, right? Let's do a proper wudu, because every organ that you clean as part of the wudu, it cleanses it. The sins that you have committed knowingly or unknowingly through those organs will fall from our body like the leaves fall from a dry tree, as the hadith reminds us. So let's use these opportunities to burden us, relieve the burden from us, the sins that we have put upon ourselves, and remove them. The Sahaba used to say we used to feel relaxed and relieved after we come to the prayers and leave the masjid. It as if there was a burden on them and it was lifted away from them. So let's do that inshallah. Number 5, on the day of Jum'ah, when you enter the masjid, you pray 2 rak'ah and you then sit with the gathering. Now, Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu narrates this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once giving the khutbah, and a man entered the masjid and he sat down. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at him and said, and he asked him to stand and asked him, have you prayed? He said no. Then he asked him to pray 2 rak'ah and sit down. Now, there is a difference of opinion on this. The Hanbaliya and the Shafi'i scholars, they said this is sunnah. This is a firm sunnah, and you have to do it and sit down. The Hanafi and the Maliki scholars, they said again, this is going into the hikmah of the hadith itself. That particular man, he was so poor in his appearance. There was poverty in his appearance, which is why the Prophet ﷺ asked him to stand up so everybody could see his stature, and when he prays, people actually see how difficulty he is going through, and then the people actually help him. That was the wisdom behind it. But again, this comes to how the usul works. The other school of thought, they said the Prophet ﷺ did not specify it explicitly. This is an affirmed sunnah. Allahu alam, whichever school of thought you agree, you follow that inshallah ta'ala. But when you come in, if the khatib is talking, don't approach the khatib all the way and stand in front of him when he is talking, and pray the 2 rakats. Be sensible, inshallah. Try to go to the corner. If you came late, try to go to the corner and pray those 2 rakats and sit down, inshallah, and then it will be okay. Number 6, very important, listening attentively. Now, listening attentively here means you're not fiddling with your mobile phone. You're not checking if your wife has cooked the meal that you have that's waiting for you after you go finish your Jummah prayer. You're not putting your phone down and flicking it up 100 times while the khutbah is going on. No, the khutbah is a collection of reminder for the entire week, right? And it's a very condensed form of information. You might not be able to capture all 100% of the points that are discussed, but you can almost carry 10%. Yes or no? Think about that. And that 10% should help us ponder upon how you are doing about that particular point. Because every single week is an opportunity for the Muslim to recalibrate himself from the previous week. If you learn something new during the khutbah, then you reflect upon that. Then you try to understand that. And then most importantly, try to apply that in your life before the next Jummah. The Sahaba Ajma'in, they said, we won't, in terms of memorization, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, it took me 16 years to memorize Surah Al-Baqarah. I mean, mashallah, most of the kids memorize the whole Quran in 2 years. Why would he say, it took me 16 years to memorize the whole Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah alone? The wisdom here is for him to implement every single ahkam that is mentioned in that surah. He said, it took me 16 years to apply all of it, in my life, so that I actually understand the surah in real context. For the Sahaba, the Quran was implementation. For us, as Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala said, it's just barakah. Of course there is barakah, but the barakah maximizes when you apply it. Now, one of the important points there is not talking to each other. Like, let's say I'm sitting, my son is next to me and he's moving around and creating a mess. As long as I'm not opening my mouth and stopping him and saying, like, don't listen, even that is breaking it. The proof of this is when Abu Darda radiallahu anhu was sitting in the gathering on the day of Jum'ah, the Prophet ﷺ was giving the khutbah, and he turned to Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu because he missed something that the Prophet ﷺ said, and he asked Ubay, Ubay, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? And Ubay just didn't even turn towards him, he just kept looking straight. And he asked him a few times, he didn't respond. And then after the khutbah was finished, Ubay just turned to him with a very black face, angry face, and he said, you have benefited nothing from this khutbah today, and he stood up to pray. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu took it to heart. So he went to the Prophet ﷺ after the khutbah and he told him, this is what Ubay ibn Ka'b told me. Is he correct? And Rasulullah ﷺ said, yes, he is right. Your job was to continue paying attention and then ask the question post the khutbah, not during the khutbah. So let's focus on that, inshallah ta'ala. Number 7, this is a meet and greet opportunity for all of us. All of us are reminded as the Imam stands for the prayer, he reminds us to stand shoulder to shoulder, toes to toes, so that we are equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get to identify someone who you have not met before, and you have an opportunity for da'wah right there. Next time you ask him, you know his name, perhaps he lives in the same neighborhood, you come to the masjid, drive him along to the masjid. You get the reward of bringing someone to the masjid. Number 8 is reflection and introspection. When anything that is said, when you are there, don't think it's for someone else. When someone gives a khutbah, or the imam gives a khutbah about a certain topic, let's say we are giving nasiha about egos, for example, right? And don't think, oh, my friend should come here and listen to this khutbah. No, it's for us. It's for me first. Everything that is mentioned is for me first. Let's put ourselves under the microscope first and reflect upon it. Number 9, this is a special day for making dua. The entire day. There is a special time between Asr and Maghrib where du'as are accepted. So let's maximize that time. I know it's a very hard period, because of how times work, etc. We are usually trying to wind up the day. It's a very busy time. But let's have that reminder on the phones for 5 minutes, because dua does not require you to be in wudu. Dua does not require you to be in a particular place. Even if you're driving, cooking, wherever you are, you can still make the dua. You can still ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help and nusra and afiyah. That's easy. And it's the easiest thing all of us can do, inshallah wa ta'ala. Number 10, most important, do not forget this, the benefits of reading Surah Al-Kahf. Think about the surah, ponder about the wisdoms in the surah, the stories that are mentioned there. If you can do it as a weekly activity with a family, you will see the barakah of doing that together, inshallah wa ta'ala. Try to learn the surah, memorize the surah, and understand the virtues of this beautiful surah, inshallah wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us come to the day of Jum'ah in the best of manners, clothed in the best of manners, and smelling in the best of manners, and performing our prayers upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أقول قولي هذا فاستغفر الله ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma ihdina fi man hadayt wa afina fi man afayt wa tawallana fi man tawallayt wa barik lana fi ma atayt wa qina wasrif anna sharra ma qadayt fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda alayk wa la yadhillu man walayt wa la yu'izzu man adayt. تباركت ربنا وتعاليت ولك الحمد على ما قضيت أستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا واخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين صلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أحسن الصلاة.